It's great having Katie Leigh with us from Adventures in Odyssey. She is the voice of Connie Kendall. What was that like? Let's say did you come on to the show 88, somewhere around there? 88, 89? 87. Okay, so the very beginning, I was 7 years of age. I started listening like at the very beginning. And so here you are, you're recording on Adventures in Odyssey. You're stepping into the studio with people like Hal Smith. I mean, legendary actors and actresses. What was that like for you coming in and recording with people like Hal Smith?
Well, when I went to work that day, I had no idea that all my friends were in the studio because unbeknownst to all of us, I had been working with Hal Smith and Walker Edmiston and Will Ryan and Patty Paris on Dumbo's Circus for a year and a half before that. So we were all very familiar with each other, and it was wonderful. It was like old home week.
Some folks would definitely recognize some of these people if they heard where they had come from. I know like Hal Smith was Otis on the Andy Griffith Show. That just had to be sort of surreal, I would think, working along with him, you know?
Oh, yeah. It was great. I mean, he's just a wonderful man, and I loved working with him. Anyway, all of them, were very talented. Will Ryan, who played Eugene, but he started out playing some other characters in the beginning. Walker Edmiston, who played Tom Riley, and Bart Rathbone. He also was working on Dumbo's Circus. I was Dumbo's voice on the Disney Channel, and they were different characters on the show. So they're all just, being with people who had spent their lives, obviously older than I was, with their stories and the wonderful productions they had worked on in the past. It's working with legends who are very nice people is a dream come true.
Would you ever cut the mics and they just laugh about something going on, like behind the scenes? You ever have moments like that?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that was the problem for our directors and writers, because all we wanted to do was goof off, pretty much. I mean, Will would bring his ukulele, and he and Hal would sing songs, and everybody would do stuff and impersonations and make noises and crack each other up, and it was a lot of fun. They'd be, "Can we please get back to the show?" Okay, or I think the writers enjoyed being entertained by us as well.
And speaking of creativity and incredible talent, you have people like Will Ryan, who is the voice of Eugene Meltzner. He could talk really fast at certain points and big words. And I'm just wondering, cut, retake. Did that happen a lot?
Not very often, because he's actually was very much like that. As a matter of fact, Will and I started a show called The Tell You Later Show that you can see on YouTube, and now it's supported on Patreon, and you can see the two of us bantering on video, and it's pretty much his natural way of talking. So he had a facility for that. He's like a walking encyclopedia.
And what's the name of that for our listeners again to check out?
The Tell Ya Later Show. Tell Ya Later. Tellya, Tell Ya Later. Where you learn so much about so little, and vice versa. But we started it during COVID, and we were recording stuff every week up until he passed away, which was awful. But so we continued to do stuff and have people on the show. But if people want to see us together, and he would always joke that we were nothing like our characters on Odyssey, which is really not that true. We're a lot like our characters. So we had a lot of fun, so people can see us and judge for themselves.
Discovering your talent when you were a kid, how did you get into voice acting? Did you have parents or somebody in your life who fostered that, inspired that? Tell us about those early years.
Well, I think my parents had really good senses of humor. My mother was always joking. We listened to lots of comedy albums. I watched cartoons growing up like everybody else. And my mom kept me busy. I did a lot of different things, sports and choir and whatever, you name it, Girl Scout. So you get exposed to a lot of things that way. But I really didn't know I wanted. I used to imitate things for myself, imitate voices and characters, but I didn't realize it was a job until I graduated high school, and people started to point out that I sounded younger than I was and suggested I might want to look into voice acting. And so that's kind of how it all started. I was in San Francisco. I started taking improv lessons, improvisational theater, just because I was kind of shy and thought maybe it would give me confidence. And I ended up doing really well and enjoying that. And a lot of voice actors are improvisational actors because you're coming up with characters all the time. And then I got an agent. I made a demo with the lady, Lucille Bliss, who was Smurfette's voice. She lived in San Francisco. And by the time I graduated with a degree in broadcasting, I had been able to join the Screen Actors Guild. And so they all said, you need to go to L.A. That's where really animation is, and your voice is suited for that. And I was really in the right place at the right time. I was very fortunate. There was a lot of animation being produced, and they weren't using children like they do now. And so I found that I had a lot of opportunity to learn on the job, basically. And then when I became a Christian, I'd already been working. I was working on some cartoons at the time. Like I said, I was on Dumbo Circus, and then I was listening to Focus on the Family, and I heard Family Portraits. And then, like you said, I was like, oh, they're using professional actors. They're using people I know. I want to, use my talents to serve the Lord. So I drove over to their offices and gave them my reel-to-reel demo and said, I'd love to work with you guys if you want me. And one thing led to another, and they created the part of Connie for me, which is amazing.
That is really interesting, so fascinating. You alluded to your faith, and I was thinking about Adventures in Odyssey and how just as a young kid, growing up with it and throughout my early years and even into high school, it taught me a lot of values, faith, character building lessons. I mean, history, there's all kinds of perspectives in it.
Right?
God, and I was just kind of curious from your perspective as a voice talent on the show, immersing yourself in the character, the lines, the story. Did you find these principles and lessons helping you personally, like in your growth in your faith?
Yeah, constantly, actually. I would say, who's been following me around and writing my life in these scripts? Because it really did. It was a weird case of, is this art imitating life? Because they would write things that I was dealing with personally, and I don't know how that happened. So it made it even more relatable when I was, when we were doing the scripts, and it still happens from time to time, and it's it's inexplicable how that happens. So yeah, I would, and then there's the experience of acting it, and then there's the experience of hearing the show later as a listener. So, and we have these, different, as actors, I think we have even more a deeper relationship with the script because we just hear it in so many different ways.
Is it challenging not to overly critique yourself when you're listening?
Yeah.
It seems like that could be a challenge for a lot of people listening and saying, I wish I would have done it this way. Or,
yeah, I still haven't watched the video of the 1 gram party they put on the club because they're like, I know they filmed it. I don't know if I want to watch myself.
When you're in the studio, you're recording for Adventures in Odyssey. You delivered, obviously, throughout. I mean, you were on so many shows, and the highs and the lows. There would be times where it would be highly emotional, and I felt like it was taking me on that emotional sort of roller coaster. Tears, and I'm just thinking, you're there, you're delivering all of that, you're putting yourself into that character, and then you hear cut. Do you need a few minutes, or do you feel kind of like, is there awkward feelings? Do you have to step away for a little bit when it's been highly emotional? How do you do that?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes, they like to do takes multiple times sometimes. So if you're in that moment, you don't want to leave it. You just start over, so you don't want to get too far away from where you are emotionally. So, but there are times, there's one famous time, and I can't remember exactly what we were reading, but I remember I was just bawling my eyes out, and Marshall Young was like, "Can I get you anything?" And I was like, "I need some jelly beans." He brought me a cup of jelly beans. I don't know why I wanted that, but yeah, I mean, a lot of times it does hit close to home. I mean, when Connie's mother died in the show, my mother had died the year before, so that was very fresh for me.
Mm. And in 1994, when Hal Smith passed away, I remember being 14 years old and just grieving when I found out, about his loss. And I'm sure that and the other losses in the show, as far as the talent, it was a difficult journey for you guys.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. It's and a real challenge for the writers too, to figure out what they're going to do next for the show. So I really admire those guys. I don't write it, I just read it. So it all starts with them. And it is hard. We, especially after so many years, you're close to people. We don't see each other that often anymore. When we started, we recorded every single week, and 37 years ago, but now it's only 4 times a year. So we're always so happy when we get to see each other, and it's just an amazing, special treat, because we have all grown to be like family to each other.
Adventures in Odyssey, getting to that 1000th episode, and I think it's available in the Adventures in Odyssey Club, releasing March the 1st is what I see. And so that's pretty significant. 30-some years of doing this. And who would have thought, when you stepped in and started working in 1987, that this show would still be going strong and be the number one listened to international radio drama,
Nobody would have thought. You know what? It's hard to even imagine. You ask anybody associated with the show, and we're all just baffled and pleased and amazed and thankful that it's gone this long. It's incredible. You don't expect things like that. This is so unique, and I have to pinch myself and think, yeah, I'm the only person when you get cast for anything, you're the only person in the world when you want to do it statistically. If it's a unique role, so you're the only person in the world, and then to have been playing her for so long, it's like a parallel universe. Odyssey's so much a part of my life. It's just anybody who listens, they think they're fans, but to me, they're like family too.
Are you Connie or Katie?
Yeah, well, I'm Katie, but a lot of people end up calling me Connie because they're just, the fans, they're just used to hearing my voice and thinking of me that way. But yeah, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
What would you say to inspire young people or old alike to follow their creative dreams? If they have something inside, like a gift or something kind of down, buried in, they maybe have been afraid to kind of pursue it, what would you say to that person?
Oh, you know what? I think God created us with skills and desires and interests and passions. And I say, explore those things. I really believe that there's a point in your life where the things that you're really interested in, and whatever path your life is taking, life circumstances, jobs, education, whatever, where it intersects and you discover how those things, you get your aha, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And, if it's what you enjoy, it's something you're going to do whether you get paid for it anyway. So, there's so many outlets to be, express creativity. And I think God created us to be creative like him. So, and there's so many different ways to be creative, to not think you have to be like somebody else, and don't minimize the things that you're good at, because there's a purpose. You might not know what it is yet. That's what I say.
Well said. Katie Leigh, KatieLeigh.com. Check out her website, adventuresinodyssey.com. And if you're wanting to get a subscription, I would highly recommend that show. You're roughly, $10 a month or less? Really, Katie, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, I think so. And check out the Tell You Later show.
The Tell You Later show, if you want to see Will Ryan, who was Eugene Meltzner, and Katie Leigh, Connie Kendall, definitely check that out. The Tell You Later show on YouTube. And again, KatieLeigh.com and adventuresinodyssey.com. And Katie, what a joy to have you here with us. It's been a real pleasure having you with us here on WBGL. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric. It was fun.